Welcome back to another episode of Hanging with the Herd. We're going to continue on with our series we got going about Journey to Strength and Conditioning Professional. We got Adam going today. We'll get to that after our thoughts of the day. We hope you've been enjoying the series as much as we have. If you have any feedback or you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, hit us up on any of our social medias, and we'd be happy to answer those or, just get back to you guys. Let's just get right to it. Got a big pod. So, Coach Ruff, what do you got for thought of the day?
So it's a little bit personal, but not in like that kind of way. Have you guys ever had like an armpit chafe, like maybe from football when you like getting used to the pads again, or like just
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and everyone's had like the normal thigh chafe.
Yeah.
Okay, which one would you rather deal with for 2 days, like 48 hours of straight?
Thigh
Because
chafe.
Armpit.
you'd rather deal with thigh chafe.
Armpit
so,
for
bro.
sure.
I think your
Bro, you gotta,
armpit's
like,
so much
waddle.
more sensitive, dude.
You gotta like waddle with the thigh chafe.
I don't know.
You
So I'm
can't touch
currently
your thighs
waddling
together.
today.
You like this.
Currently waddling.
Today was a big waddle day.
I'm moving a lot more than my arms are going side to side.
I will say recently I've been getting a lot of thigh chafes and I never used to get that before. So I don't know, maybe the quads and hamstrings
muscle?
are blowing up.
I don't know. I feel like the arm ones, like, when you like hurt your back and then you don't realize how much you actually use your back and everything. I feel like the armpit chafe would be something where you don't realize how much you like move your arm or something and it just bothers you. Like, you're
Worst
moving your legs,
shape?
but
Bloody nipples. Like when you're running, like you've had people run like in the fall and you're running, your nipples are hard. And they're
Never.
running against the shirt.
Never.
Bro,
I've seen and heard of that, but I've never had it.
I've never
happened
had
to
it
me, like,
either,
once,
bro.
like low key, and then I've seen people like someone I went to college with. I feel like posted a photo and they had like blood through their shirt because they ran like a 5K, shaved it.
The 40-year-old virgin.
Yeah,
Damn. All right. Coach Mondo, the other day.
I was listening to a podcast 2 days ago, yesterday, and they were talking about like jobs and burnout and like comparing people that like really just do not like their job and like they have to show up every day and figure out how to put forth energy and whatnot into their profession. But then on the other side of it was people that do love their job, but like they're so passionate about it that they give every ounce of energy and passion into whether it's people, athletes like us. So like just like the difference between those two and then he was mentioning how like recharging, like for example, someone that works like as a investigator and they see a lot of like wild stuff, like they go to crime scenes and they see a lot of crazy shit, right? When they come home, like how do they recharge? Like they love what they do because they get to help people and they get to solve investigations and all that, but then they get home and they're drained from putting so much passion to what they do. And that's just an example of a profession. But like for us too, like we show up to work and we're so passionate what we do. We're super energetic with our kids, with our athletes, and like we're pouring so much into them. By the time we get home, we're like dead. But he was like, it's the right kind of dead though, because you just put in so much of your love and passion into what you do. And then when you get home, you're drained. But then he was like, how do you guys like recharge? Like, how do you show up the next day and do it all over again with the same amount of passion and love? Like, and he was mentioning how like he'll read a book, something related to what he's doing, or like, and like I thought about that. I'm like the opposite. Like, I kind of need to get, and we've talked about it before. Like, when I get home from work, I really don't like getting into anything strength conditioning because I just did that the entire day. So it's like I see where he's coming from, but also at the same time, like my recharge is getting away because then the next day I'm refreshed and I'm ready to roll. So your thoughts, anything you guys do, Adam?
yeah. So this kind of reminds me of your situation you're talking about. It's one of my favorite books I've ever read called The Passion Paradox, and it has a list of topics. But the one thing, like one of the themes of the book, is why it's so important to have other hobbies and to not basically identify yourself as your career, because there can be so many things that like if you're so devoted to your career and if it's going great, that's great. But when it doesn't go great, if that's your only thing, like you're gonna struggle mentally. So like a lot of time in the book they talk about having other hobbies and having an identity that's other than your job. Because like you're talking about, like when you're not at work and you're at home, like having other hobbies, you can go for walks in nature, if reading's your thing, if playing video games is your thing, like having something outside of your work is huge for recharging and filling your bucket back up. That way, no matter what's happening at work, you're not just totally like um totally invoked in it. Like that was one of my favorite parts of the passion paradox. That way, like it's nice to have passion, but the word passion comes from the root word of suffer. So isn't that crazy? You say I'm passionate about strength and conditioning, but the root of the word comes from suffering. So that's the whole paradox behind it.
I
Didn't know that.
I like don't like coming home and doing more strength and conditioning stuff. Like that's just like I like to keep that all at work. Like I'd rather go in an hour earlier than I needed to just to like get my work done, or like 2 hours earlier. Like I'd rather get to work at like 4:30 a.m. and get on work. I feel like I'm the most productive when I first get there. So I like to get there early and I'll like catch up on all my stuff I need to catch up on before my first lift. And that's when I feel like the absolute best. Or like I'll read a new article or do things like that. I'll put on a podcast. That's when I like to do the most strength and conditioning stuff. Like I like to keep it all at work. So when I get home, like I don't want to feel like I'm still working, you know? And that's like my time to release. So I don't know. I like sort of envy the people who can do it a little bit more at home, like listen to a podcast or read a book, and I just haven't been able to do that as of recently. I don't know. I think it really started when I was at Newman. Like when I got home, I did not want to think about anything strength and conditioning, because those were just like those long ass days. And I was like, bro, I just want to release. And I think I kind of still got that a little bit, but I think I'd eventually like to get better about like reading books when I'm at home. I still kind of like to do that when I'm just at work, like spend 20-30 minutes, just read a little bit at work. But I don't know. Not yet. I doubt it'll happen anytime after I have a baby. But who knows?
Yeah, I'm the same way. Especially like last year when I was the one man show for 23 teams, like
Mm-hmm.
did not want work. And I feel like the more, more experienced strength coaches, like, not speaking for anyone, but mentors of mine, they've always preached that. So I wonder how old, the person you were listening to, I wonder how old they were, or their situation, because if you really haven't pushed yourself or like said to yourself, like, holy shit, this is my limit, then you don't really know what it's like to like go home and just absolutely deplug. Like
Mm-hmm.
even nowadays, I like when Allie and I drive home, or sorry, Hank and I drive home, first thing I say once we're done and we're parked in the parking lot is, okay, leave it in the car, because we'll vent about work, but I don't want to talk about work once we're home.
Mm-hmm.
Like leave it in the car. So
And there also is like like not trying to brag on strength conditioning, but like you take a teacher and compare what they do to like what we do, like the amount of energy and like movement and like all of that. We're going like all day.
Yeah.
Teacher, you have your lesson, you know what to do, and you just teach the class. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but like from an energetic standpoint, from being able to pour a passion into like people, like
Yeah, I think
it's a demand on us.
I think it's less about like less teachers, more like administration. I think teachers, they fucking get some work in, bro. I think administration, I think that's where like it misses sometimes, because like they're the ones who make the ultimate decisions, and some of them have no idea like what we truly do. I mean, I think for teachers, they don't even know what teachers do half the time. You know what I'm saying? So like these are the people that make the decisions, and like, oh, do you get a new weight room? Do you get new equipment? What do you need? It's like, oh, you looks like you have a great weight room. It's like, yeah, if it was 1962, you know what I'm saying? But they don't understand like what the demands are, like what you need to be like a successful and to have like give your kids the best opportunity. They think like, oh yeah, it's good enough, like we can put our money towards other things. It's like, but you want them to do this and do that, but you don't want to give them the tools for that. So
yep.
Yeah.
100%. And even I think you can kind of lump in some sport coaches,
Mhm.
like in season, yes, they're extremely busy. Like kudos, the sport coach thing is not easy. But ultimately, like if you were going to compare it, like, dude, they're not in 14 hours a day all year round. Yeah, you're recruiting, you got to do other BS, but you ultimately could show up for practice and go home.
Yeah.
Like that's cheddar. If I showed up for football in the morning and went home like 3-hour day, I'm chilling. You know, now just program for the next one. Like that's how easy that would be. You know?
Yeah. But all right, Adam, what you got?
So this isn't usually I have thoughts of the day where like I kind of want to hear what you guys think, but this was more of just my own thought here.
Fuck our
So
thoughts, huh?
yeah, I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
you guys have something to say about it. But so I got a new car and I was going through changing my insurance over, and my insurance agent had me download like this app that I like you use, and it's running in the background while you're driving. So it's meant to like have distraction free driving. I don't know if you guys have anything similar, but it lowers your rate like 10, 15, 20% depending on how well you drive. But how they classify how well you drive is like, are you braking hard? Are you it can sense like if you have your phone in your hand and you're swiping while you're driving. So that would be like distraction driving. And then another part of it is speeding. So I was thinking about this the other day. Like I live in, St. Paul and I commute to Minneapolis every day. So I'm driving through the city or between the cities every single day. So after I downloaded the app, I looked at the first drive that it marked for me. And it said I sped literally the entire way from St. Paul to Minneapolis. So I wanted to know what was considered speeding. And it said anything 10 over. So I was like, okay. So like normally, like it's a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. I typically drive anywhere from 65 to 70. I've never gotten a speeding ticket except for one random time I was delivering Popeyes when I was door dashing, but that's a different story. No, it was a school zone. They had to give me a 10 over. So anyway, so I was thinking about that. I was like, all right, so I'm being deducted for driving like at the pace of traffic. Yes, I'm speeding, but if I drive slower, like I'm actually in more danger. Like the paradox of like I'm in more danger driving the speed limit than I actually am speeding. Because if I'm speeding, I'm actually going with the pace of traffic. But if I lower it, I'm probably driving. I'm probably more of a danger to the roads because people have to pass me. So I thought that was a very like I was like I like the idea, but I'm like
I mean,
is it really safer?
you could just go like 5 over. You don't necessarily have to go.
So if
10
it's a
over.
55-mile-an-hour speed limit, I'm driving 64. But yeah, it was a really interesting thought I had in the car today. I was like, like is it really safer? Like I'm driving slower.
At least you can go back and look, so you can like
Yeah.
see. That's
Right.
actually kind of cool.
I was kind of freaking out too because I normally have my phone mounted on my dashboard, so I'm like picking songs as I'm driving, which is any different than if you're hitting the radio, right? So I was like, "Oh, is this gonna count as like a distraction because I'm swiping through my phone?"
Did
And
it?
it didn't. No, I didn't. But I was just like, I was like, gotta download the app for cheaper insurance. But I'm like, hopefully I'm not screwing myself over here because I'm a very aggressive driver.
Well, you should let us know by like next month if
Sure.
it's really worth it. Because as
Yeah,
soon as I was offered that from Progressive, I was like, nah, because I definitely speed at 4:30 in the morning. Like no one's out at 4:30 in the morning. Like
I mean,
I'm
Bro,
driving.
no one.
I'm driving through Amish country. I'm going.
95
I'm
miles an
going.
hour.
yeah, I think a lot of the major insurance companies have something similar. State Farm has it. I have American Family, so they're all pretty similar.
Mhm.
I'll let you know if it's worth it.
Word. All right. My thought of the day is I hate snow. Snow's the devil. If hell is real, hell is covered in snow and ice and not fire. Snow is the worst. I hate snow. I hate the cold. It's terrible. It's miserable. Fuck snow. All right. Any other questions?
Snowboarding's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Never been.
Keep it in the mountains though, bro. Like, all right, here's what happened, right? So
Wait, can you tell a story at Minnesota with ice? And do you remember like biffing it and just freaking out about like ice and snow? And you were like, hell is real. It's fucking ice. You were going off that morning.
yeah, dude, because I like ate shit. It was just snow and icy. Yeah. Here, I got a story for today. Okay. So I wake up and it's like 4 a.m. I get a text from the dance coach. I'm supposed to have cheer that morning at 6. And the dance coach is like in charge of cheer and dance, but mainly does dance. And then there's like an assistant who runs cheer. But dance coach texts me at 4 a.m. I'm like, why in the world are you texting me at 4 a.m? And so she's like, what is your policy for canceling practice for snow? And like normally it's if like the school cancels or like the coach wants to cancel. Like I'm fine with that. It's their decision. And that's what I told her. She's like, okay. And she like was kind of like iffy. And then all of a sudden she's like, well, I canceled dance, so I think I'm just gonna cancel cheer. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I hadn't even looked outside yet. And I'm like, all right, if she's canceling, like it's gotta be pretty good. But I hadn't got any emails from the school. Normally they're like pretty good about it. So I go look outside and there's like already like a foot of snow and it's coming down like hard, like blowing sideways. Can't see down the street. It's dark out, nothing. So I'm like, awesome, sick. So I have more time to get ready now because I don't have to be there for my lift at 6. So I'm taking my time, just contemplating how I'm gonna have to go outside, get all the snow off my car. And I'm hoping it's just snow and not ice. So I finally get out there and I get all the snow off, literally a foot of snow on my car. So I'm like using my arm to just like push the snow off just because it's easier. And I finally get in my car and then I get going and I have to go 4-wheel drive. No down like getting out. I'm going nowhere without 4-wheel drive. It's so thick. And I'm going up my street and you know how like your windshield will be like foggy, like it needs to defrost or whatever. And it's like on the inside. Well, I only have like the bottom of my windshield. And normally like by the time I get to the, like not my first street, but my second street, it's almost all gone. It didn't go away till I almost got to work. It was so cold. Like it wouldn't go. I don't know why, but it was not going away. So I'm like driving like this, just trying to see through my windshield. Probably not the safest thing, but I was like, it normally goes away.
We've all
So
been there.
Yeah. And it like normally goes away. So I'm like, I don't know why this isn't going away. And I'm driving, dude. And you guys saw on the Snapchat, like I get to that intersection, you can barely see across the intersection. Like there's so much snow coming down. There's not one snowplow in sight. Haven't seen one yet. Not one anywhere. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like people are actually like driving. There's like little cars trying to drive in this dude. And they're like swerving. Like I'm cruising. Like I got a 4-wheel. Like I feel good. But like it's thick. Like I can feel myself in my truck driving through like huge piles of snow. Like normally I feel like I'm just cruising over it. No, I feel like I'm trudging through the snow. And so we're driving. My drive to work in the morning at that time when nobody's out on the street takes me maybe 10 minutes. It took me about 25 minutes. So like 2.5 times, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when it takes you 10 minutes, it feels long as hell. So I get to work, right? And so we wear like the Catapult sports bras for our GPS and our heart rate is built in. So I actually wash those at home just because I have to wash them on cold and I have to air dry them. And I don't want to like give that to our equipment people because it's just like they got to wash it and then dry it. And I don't want to, that's a lot of work for them when they got a lot of shit going on and super easy for me. So I do that at home. Well, I get all the way to work. I back in and I'm sitting there about to get out and I realized I left them all at home.
Ugh.
I'm like, what the fuck? So I get out. And the way like our intersection works, like at work, to like leave the parking lot is you have to go out and turn right, go all the way down, U-turn to get back to where I need to go. Justin, you got a call, bro.
Yeah, I don't know why that wouldn't go away. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good. So I'm going down, like I'm almost to like the roundabout to like go home, and I get a text. Hey, we're gonna cancel practice. Coach just drove into a ditch. I'm like, fuck. All right. Well, that means I don't have to get the sports bras. So I take the roundabout all the way back and I get back into the parking lot. And there's like a full on like tractor in there pushing the snow. And this dude's pushing the snow and it's like piling almost to the level of the guy sitting in the tractor. There's just so much snow on the ground. So I finally back in and I'm out there and you still can't see shit. Can't see shit. I go inside and whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's like 8:00 or by the time we get an email from the school and they're like, hey, conditions were different when we drove around this morning, but we're going to cancel school now. And I'm like, when the hell did you guys drive around? Because it's been snowing for like the last 5 hours. So I don't know when you guys thought conditions were different and we might have school, because I haven't been able to see fucking 20 feet in front of me for the last 4 hours. So I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. So we were just like, what is this bullshit? Like, just cancel it. Every other school in the whole city had canceled by then. And we were like, oh, conditions have changed. Like, well, really? Because it seems like it's just been snowing hard as hell the whole time. And And it's like, I'm not gonna make my athletes just drive here in this crazy amount of snow. Like, dude, there's so many cars like crashed or on the side when I was driving home. It was insane. So much snow. But yeah, fuck snow.
I thought it was gonna be a quick story with the fuck snow.
Justin got me going. Justin got me going.
I just remember when you had the bike with the mega tires on it.
Dude, I used to
biking
bike in
through
that.
snow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I don't want to do that again. That was not fun. The buses went so fast too. They almost like hit me every time. I felt like that shit was scary. But all right, Adam. It's your world, man. We're just living in it.
All right, here we go. Strap it in, boys. No, I really like this. I was thinking about it, and I was like, we've all heard of each other. We talked about this last week, but we've all talked about each other's stories. But I don't know if I've ever like really told my full story. Like, I know you guys know me, Hayden. You know me pretty well. Like, do you know my full story? Did I ever tell it to you? No. All right, so I guess before I start like how I got into strength and conditioning, I gotta like paint the small background here of like I was going from high school to college. I was a recruited college football player. So I decided to go to Whitewater. That's where I thought I was gonna like have really good competitive football. I liked the school. It was close enough to home that I can go home on the weekends, but it wasn't, it was like far enough away where I felt like I could have my own life. So I guess that's what like ultimately, and everyone like raved about Whitewater. I had a few friends at Whitewater that I knew of and they just loved it. Plus, like, it was like I knew it was a lot of fun. Everyone like Whitewater is known as a party school too. So like you're gonna have a good time, you're gonna get a good education, and you're gonna play really good football. So um I guess like my whole catalyst for getting me into strength and conditioning starts with kind of like my first heartbreak, honestly. So, like early on in my first year, I was really struggling with college football. Socially, it was a different atmosphere than coming from high school. I went to a school with only 300 kids, and now I'm in a state school with like, at least 5,000 plus kids, probably more. I can't even remember, but a lot of these kids like came from big schools and they were big time recruits, kids that could have played Division I football and or maybe like they were lower level D1 athletes that wanted to stay home and play at Whitewater and try to win a national championship. Um, so going into fall camp, like I also wasn't physically prepared. So I never really like lifted much in high school. I got by a lot on like my own talent, I guess. And plus I was like bigger than most kids in my division being from a small school. So like it was a big culture shock playing at Whitewater where um like the competition was insane, man. Like I've played against future NFL players, definitely a lot of All Americans, and that freshman year team ended up winning the national championship. So it just shows you like as a scout team player what kind of guys I'm going up against. Um, I didn't make it through fall camp though. I definitely called my mom crying and telling her that I didn't think I was gonna make it. And she really wanted me to keep sticking it out, and like there were some good guys on the team, but nothing was really sticking as far as like a go-to. I didn't have like my roommate he's a good dude, but I wasn't necessarily that close with him. I don't talk to him anymore. And then to make things even better, my first girlfriend at the time, it was a little bit like a year plus long relationship, started seeing her ex-boyfriend again. So dealing with that from
While you're together?
yeah.
Dang. She's cool,
So
bro.
and I like a big
What's her
part of
name?
it was what's up?
What's her name?
We'll just say H, but I'm not
Dang,
gonna,
bro.
I don't
Fuck
want to
H.
give it attention. I don't want to give it. So it made things hard because like I went to college by myself and like that was considered like long distance because we went from seeing each other a lot to like maybe once every couple weekends. So like wasn't enough for her. Like she had to go back to her comfortability of her ex-boyfriend who was always there, wasn't doing anything with his life. That's as much attention as I'm going to give to that. But that was the first time in my life that I experienced true like anxiety. What's up?
Did you listen to sad music?
Kid Cudi.
Is that your sad
Ed
music go to?
Cudi.
Kid Cudi got me through a hard time. And B.O.B.
B.O.B. dude.
Okay. Okay.
R.I.P. He
Wouldn't
ain't
have
dead,
guessed
but his
that.
music
Yeah.
is.
So when I was in football, I decided to gray shirt. It left it on the table for me to like potentially come back. There was a route, and like I competed decent, but I was never gonna like my freshman year was never gonna play. I was just gonna be a practice squad guy, which would have been fine. I also like I don't know. I was just being soft, and like when I hurt my hip in fall camp too, and like it was hard. Like I remember I couldn't get out of the car at one point because my hips were so jammed up from like I guess I wasn't used to like that level of play either. So put that on top of the X situation, and also like I was a general business major in school. I was not enjoying it. I was not getting good grades, and for me, getting not getting good grades was like C's and B's, whatever, at the time, and just kind of coasting. And then I was isolated in my dorm a lot. There were some really good guys on my floor my freshman year, so like they were awesome, but like I didn't even want to go out. I didn't want to like go out and party and meet new people. I fell in love with the buffet at school because I go from my mom's cooking to like being able to go to the buffet and just never stop eating. So you put that on top of reducing physical activity because I'm not in football anymore. And within my first semester of college, I went from a healthy 230 playing weight up to 260. So at one point, I weighed 260 pounds. And I'll never forget that moment of like looking at myself in the mirror and like just like there were nights I couldn't sleep because I was so anxious. Like I've never felt that. Like my heart would be beating. I couldn't sleep. I was gaining a ton of weight and I just had no ambition to do anything. And at one point, I even considered joining the military. I got as far as filling out all the paperwork and having the recruiter at my house for dinner. I was going to join my buddy's platoon, and much respect to him, because my best friend ended up serving in Kuwait. And that was interesting too, because side note, the recruiter basically told my mom, there's no chance he's ever going to get deployed. Like the way it works, like he might be on the tail end of it, but he'll never, they got deployed like that next year. So I would have been in Kuwait with him. I was going to join his same company. But
Wait, do you have pictures of when you were 260?
I do. I
Wow, dude,
in fact,
that's
probably on my Instagram somewhere, but it was
What
like
are you now?
clothes. I had stretch marks on my sides.
How big are you now?
Right now, I weigh a very like healthy big 230.
Yeah.
no,
But
yeah, like,
but I'm gonna
solid build.
yeah.
Yeah.
But my whole journey of like my weight loss and then building back up is like insane. So
And you probably weren't as built at that time too.
no,
So you were
my
like,
230, I am the same weight now I was in high school, but I'm like 4 times as strong.
yeah.
You know
Dang,
what I'm
I can
saying?
only
I
imagine.
was I
260.
played high. I could show you my high school roster. I'm 230 listed in high school.
Dang.
Wait, what high school did you go to?
Peter Grove, Belgium, high school.
All right, keep going.
Anyway, so division. Um, so my low point was like wanting to join the military, and the reason I didn't is because I thought so hard about it. I literally had the paperwork filled out, was gonna drop it off, and like there's no turning back then, unless like you had other situations. But I was asked the question, why the military? Do you want to serve, or was it something else? And my honest question was, I don't have any other like I have nothing for me right now. My brother was a successful Division I athlete and competing, and I just had nothing like at the time. And I had to think about it so hard. It was so hard to go back on my word because like I made it a big thing, and I was like, I'm going to the military. Everyone was so proud of me. And then I was like, I'm actually not. There's something else for me. And like at that low point, that was the turning point in my life. I was single. I wasn't. I wasn't gonna like. I wasn't studying what I wanted to study. So eventually I was like, all right, I'm gonna start doing something for myself. So I started working out. I had no idea what I was doing. Okay. No idea what I was doing. And like as I was working out, I started researching everything. Like I was on bodybuilding.com. I was like looking into like Jim Stepani supplements, spending money all the month on their protein line. All like I tried all the supplements, everything legal. I've never done steroids or tren or anything, but
Yeah.
I've tried everything. I've tried weight loss pills and things. And at one point, I was even eating 1,200 calories a day, and I did that for probably a couple weeks. That's looking back at it, and from what I've studied, I had an eating disorder at the time. Like, by definition, I was honestly restricting my eating down to 1,200 calories for a 6'3", 260-pound person. That is
That's
not.
crazy, bro.
I had the number 1,200 written on my phone, and I was tracking everything. I was eating at the door, like the dining hall, it'd be like 3 green beans, like 1 pork chop, and maybe like a small cup of rice, and like I was drinking like ton of water and stuff, and like I dropped 30 pounds in like less than 2 months.
Dude, going off what you just said though, the athletes and people I've talked to who have had like on the edge of eating disorders or have had eating disorders have been the most meticulous when it comes to tracking their food.
Right.
They're the best at it.
And like you would never think in the moment, like it's very taboo for men to have eating disorders, but for like I'd say 3 months out of like that time frame, I had an eating disorder. Looking back at it. So I dropped 30 pounds in 2 months, and it was not a healthy 30. Like I have pictures I could show you guys later, but I basically went from like everyone was so proud of me. They're like, yeah, you're making progress, but I was like starving myself. So I got back down to 230 and I lost a lot of muscle. I remember like I was benching, I think I would bench like 225 for 1 rep when I tested out with football. Like I couldn't hit that anymore. 205 was hard. So I was like, so through my research and stuff, I was like, all right, this is not the right way to do it. Like I developed like good gym consistency because I was working out, I was doing a ton of cardio. I was in the gym a lot, but like I just wasn't like fueling myself properly. And I thought supplements was like the end all be all. So through my research and like I started like researching the right way to do things, I started falling more in love with it. And that's where I told my mom too, like, hey, like I think I'm onto something here. Like I'm seeing progress losing weight, and I'd like to like start to do it like in a more healthy way. I'd like to start focusing on my nutrition better, making sure like I'm getting enough calories. And like I told her like I think like it would be really cool to do kinesiology. My mom is a physical therapist, so I grew up like with her knowledge and stuff. And I was like, that's kind of cool what you do. Like, so she was like, oh, are you sure you want to do it? It's like a lot of anatomy and a lot of memorizing. And she knew I wasn't like a good student at the time. So like she thought I would struggle a little bit. But the difference is when you fall in love with something so much, like I did with kinesiology and strength and conditioning, it made learning all that much more easier. I retained everything. I wanted to know more. Classes started getting easier, grades started getting easier. So I was like, wow, like this is really something I like. And then while I'm learning, I'm applying it to myself. Right. So in this time, I started dabbling around with like helping other people out losing weight. What's up, Jay? You got a question?
Sorry to sidetrack you. I found you on Max Preps.
Oh shit, let's go.
Number 52.
Yep.
What a number.
That was my number 2.
You can actually Google. I'll send this in our group chat. His Adam Shire junior year highlights.
Let's go.
So yeah.
Fuck it. Mixtape.
Found
Did you
you.
get a sack? Did you get a sack?
I was like second or third in the state in sacks until I got mono. I had like 11 or 12 before I missed the last 2 games.
H gave you mono too?
Dang.
This girl, bro. Dang.
Bad news.
Anyway, so
Exposure.
as I started like getting results and stuff, people started noticing and wanted to know what I was doing. So like I started offering some advice, and I was never overstepping, but like I wanted to make sure I was giving them the right information. And I started giving back to my high school. We always did speed camp every year before they got into their fall training. So I would go back in the summer and actually train the high schoolers. I had no idea what I was doing, but I put them through like agility. I put them through conditioning. We did like team bonding workouts that I led. I did that for 2 years, and that was like my first initial taste of like coaching kids. It was like giving back to the high schoolers. They looked up to me as a past athlete, so they listened, and they just saw me as a big dude, and they were gonna listen. So it was fun. My first internship. So as I was getting recruited to play football, I worked closely with a guy, Al Johnson. He's a ex NFL player. He was the center for the Cowboys. If you guys remember the famous picture of Tony Romo sitting on the ground holding his helmet in like one of the playoff games, look it up. He's laying on the ground and he's like in shame, like he's holding his helmet from like a fumble or something that cost him the game. Al Johnson's in that photo, like consoling him. So he was the starting center for Romo back in the day, and then he was only in the NFL for a few years, but eventually he was a GA for Wisconsin, and he was doing recruiting. So like he was trying to help kids recruit and get their name out. So I worked with him and trained with him as I was getting ready for football. So I knew he was at Wisconsin, so I stayed in touch with him, and I was like, I texted him, hey, like I'm starting to look into strength and conditioning. I was really curious if I could come by the Badgers and check out your weight room. I just want to talk shop. He's like, even better, why don't you apply for our internship? Never like came to me to ask that question. So I was like, okay. So I applied for it, went through the interviews, and I ended up getting the internship. And that for me, like growing up in Wisconsin was like the dream. Like Hayden, if you're like you're a big Texas fan, like interning for Texas is like, holy shit, like this is the team that I've looked up to, and now like I'm working with them. Like all my family was so excited for me, all my friends. It's like that's so cool. So that was like my first deep dive into anything like as far as helping. And I also was helping out a little bit at Whitewater in the weight room, but I had a lot more help once I came back. So my first initial like internship with Wisconsin was like pretty intense. Just like that was my first like thing with football. Like I was there every morning at 5. I lived in Madison. I literally that whole summer was like dedicated towards just helping out. Like I coached a little bit. Like there were some dudes on that roster, probably 20 plus some guys that are still in the NFL. Like one that came to mind, starting play caller for the Eagles, TJ Edwards. He just played last Sunday in the Super Bowl. He was like one of them. The list goes on, but the talent there is crazy. Like Jonathan Taylor, that was his freshman year. So that was like a huge confidence boost for me because I'm like, if I can hang with these guys and like help them out and coach them, like I think I can apply this to anywhere, even though I didn't know a lot at the time. Sidetrack, I even bought my cleats and I would strap it up and do drills with them. Nothing pisses off a cornerback more than getting dusted by me.
Yes.
Like drills. Because
Let's
I hopped
go.
in. I also got my ass dusted by Corey Clement. He was a running back for the back when they ran they were in the Super Bowl when they won the Super Bowl. Corey Clement was I think on that roster, so he dusted me too in the ladder drill. But so after that first internship, I went back to Whitewater and I needed like more credit, so I interned with Whitewater, and that was like my biggest like growth, I would say, from going from not knowing a whole lot to applying and actually getting teams to work with. So I'm very fortunate to get a lot of mentorship and help from Josh Ireland at Whitewater. Their director Lee Munger helped me out. And, like I had especially Corey Chapp, and I'll get into that later. But those 3 coaches helped me out a ton and gave me a lot of responsibility. I worked a ton with women's soccer there. Like I would get bowling to like do their workouts by myself. I did a lot with women's tennis where I was actually like leading their conditioning by myself. And like that was a huge like taking all that confidence. I'm like, if I can do it at the Division 1 level, I'm like, I can do it anywhere kind of thing. And like that was a lot of growth for me. So and again, school was going great. Like at that point, like I was on the dean's list every year and like everything was just clicking. Like I was going to be a strength coach. Like that's what I wanted. So I even took the CSCS like on a whim because I wanted to go for a GA position, and I studied for like 3 weeks hard and I failed it by like 2 questions. So I wasn't quite. What'd you say?
Retweet. Been there.
Right. So like I didn't really like I studied, but like you can't like good like unless you're super smart. Good luck passing the CSCS with 3 weeks of studying. I only failed one. Only failed one. The second time I took it in Minnesota, I passed it by like 85%.
I don't. It's just like the way they do it, like the way they
Right.
word questions and
Oh, yeah.
shit. Like
Yeah.
if you don't have the book, like there's some questions in there you won't get just because like they do it so specific to like how they want it.
Right.
Like that's the part.
What,
that,
what
like,
was your guys'
frustrating.
study method though?
Flashcards. I read I did flashcards from like their highlighted vocab. I did practice tests a lot.
My
Hayden?
first study methods were terrible. I just like read the book and like took notes. My second one, this is I tell everybody to do this, is anytime you do like a practice quiz, you do like you get practice questions, whatever, you go through, so you read the question, right? And then for each answer, you write why it is right. And then if it's wrong, you write why it's wrong. And it's the best thing ever because you learn so much more because you're learning about all these answers and how they don't apply. So then when you get to the test, you're like, oh, I
That don't
know
make
it's not.
sense.
Yeah, because there's
Right.
only 3 options. So I was like, I know that's not it, and I know that's not it. I might not know what the hell that is, but I know that's it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? That's the best study method I
That's
can get.
that's a solid one.
Yeah.
I use Pocket Prep. It was an app, and it's got like
Yeah.
a bunch of different standardized tests.
I know a lot of people did that one.
That's all I did really.
Yeah. But
Yeah, it definitely was a pocket. I think you told me about the pocket prep.
Yeah.
Then I found
I think I
out,
told you
was
that.
like, wow. Yeah.
wow.
And like you get to the test and like half the questions are exactly what the pocket prep
Yeah.
like questions were.
Yeah,
It was
bro.
like, I've seen this.
Yeah. But it did the same thing kind of as Hayden just explained, because they would have like the reason why in a short little blurb. So it wasn't beneficial besides just like questions.
Keep going, Adam.
Yeah, so I get once I like graduated Whitewater, I was left with like my next step, right? I wanted to grow a lot and I wanted to go somewhere different, right? I was like, all right, I got 2 internships under my belt, potential GA, or I'm looking at GA, but I also I need more experience. I know how this works. So through like some of our connections and stuff, like I was working a ton with Corey Chapp, and he did a past summer internship at Minnesota. So he said, "Oh, like you could learn a lot there. Like, highly recommend it. Like, Cal Dietz is there. Like, his methods that he was doing at Whitewater was literally Cal Dietz. Like, that was my first exposure to triphasic training. I was literally doing it with the soccer team at Whitewater. So, but before that, it was like really interesting because like I literally had a top 3 in my head. I was like, I applied to Clemson. They reached out way too late. And then I was a finalist to intern at Ohio State with football. So like I was talking to the coaches there, and he said like, we're still waiting, but like we'll have a decision in like a couple weeks. Well, I interned really well and had a really good relationship with Corey Peterson in Minnesota, and he called me to offer me, and I was like, hey, like I need like a day. So like that way I went back to Ohio State, and I was like, hey, like, do you guys have a timeline? He's like, could be a couple weeks. I'm like, I don't think I can't wait. And I just had such a good feeling about Minnesota and like the things I've heard, and like they have such a great internship program. And like talking to Corey, like he's like, if you come here, like you're gonna coach. You're gonna be a better coach. I'm gonna let you coach. You're gonna have a lot of like things that you're gonna have to earn, but like you're gonna get a lot of opportunities if you put the work in. Plus, it helped. Like I was really interested in triphasic because it was like training I've never even experienced or heard of until Corey Chapp showed it to me, and he's like, "This is the birthplace of triphasic." So I'm like, "All right, cool." So it just felt right. So I literally graduated on a Saturday. I packed up my car and drove to Minnesota on a Sunday, and I've been there 4.5, 5 years since. So it's been the best decision of my life.
Never left.
I've never left. No,
Minnesota
it's
forever.
yeah. So I talked about it. Like this is now where like if you're a listener, you're a little more caught up on my journey here. But for those who don't know, I started off as an unpaid intern in Minnesota. I worked pretty much under Corey Peterson, but I have a lot of other great coaches there that I helped and learned under, especially the directors Sarah Wiley and
Shout out Coach Y.
Yep, definitely. And I've had a lot of experience working and helping out Cal, especially through COVID. Like that was a hell of a time. I'll get to that later. But so as an unpaid intern, like I got to coach my ass off. Like I didn't write any programs, but like I got to learn the program and like freshmen, like running that crap. Corey trusts me with the warm-ups, so I was running their warm-ups. As an unpaid intern, I got to do stuff that really like besides maybe Hayden, no one else really got to do. They traveled me. They paid soccer paid for my trip out to Indiana with them and stayed in a hotel. I went to their games and got to be a part of the team. That was unreal. And they won the Big Ten that year. And they were so great. Like they literally bought me a Big Ten ring. This is my first Big Ten ring. So
Gotta take care of your people.
I was so thankful for that they made me a part of the team. But at the end of the day, like I put the work in to be a part of the team, and I helped out a lot of other teams that's going to be really beneficial for like the rest of my career at Minnesota. But that was I did that for a full year. So while I was interning though, like something really important is when I wanted to try to earn a little bit of more money, I got a connection through the baseball coach at Minnesota where I got a job in the private sector. So I was double dipping or triple dipping school because I was in my master's. I was interning and I was doing the private sector work at night. So my schedule was like 6 a.m. until noon. I'd be interning. From 12 to like 2 or 3, I'd be in class. And then I'd immediately get in the car and be at the private sector place till 9 or 10. And that was my first experience with burnout. I did that for like 3 months most. Great experience though. Like I got to coach. I got to program for the first time. They were high school athletes, mostly like softball girls, a few baseball guys, things like that. So a lot of lacrosse players, and like I got really good at learning and coaching like acceleration and sprint mechanics. The stuff you see from these kids who might not be like potential college athletes, like it really makes you a better coach. So I saw a lot of stuff, really worked on my coaching, but I was drained. Like I would be like, whether I was in class, like trying almost falling asleep. It wasn't me. And I remember having a conversation with Corey Peterson. I was like, I'm at a hard place because like I'm learning so much at Minnesota, but I'm making money at this other place. And he's like, you got to do what you got to do, but like we don't want to see you burn out. And it was a really hard decision, but it was the best decision for me, and I don't regret it. Is quitting the paid position to spend more time doing unpaid work.
It
I don't know
almost
if
makes no
I don't
sense,
know if
right?
I don't know if I
It
recommend
almost
it.
makes no sense.
No, I don't know if I'd recommend it, but like I don't regret it, because here's what it led to is through the luck of other coaches leaving. One of the coaches left the paid internship role, which helped out with volleyball and softball. And I remember walking down to Coach Wiley's office, sitting in the office and saying, "Hey, like I don't know how this is all going to work. I know that Jared's leaving, so I am really interested in that position." And I said, "I'll do anything to like, whatever it is I have to learn, things like that." And the big thing was the technology I worked with in soccer is the same technology that they use at volleyball. So when that position eventually came open, obviously I interviewed for it. It was very fair. I remember being at Minnesota. I was in this office, like waiting for my interview, and someone opened the door as Wiley, and she goes, "Shit, I was gonna take this spot." She's like, "Give me 5 minutes." So she like runs down to a different room to like interview me, but like put me through the ringer, and it was a good interview experience, and I ended up getting the position where, like, essentially I was an assistant strength coach with her. She did a lot of the programming, but eventually, like, she was so good at like giving me insight, like I could change things in the workout. She had full trust in me as I was earning it. Um, with volleyball, I knew their whole system for their heart rate and GPS tracking, so I was taking full control of that. Wiley will be the first one to tell you she's not really technologically inclined, so she let me roll with it. Like I literally was like helping her with it, things like that, crunching data all the time for the coaches, and then traveling with volleyball. And that was an amazing experience. Traveling with volleyball, being like a part of another team, another great winning culture. Um, so I did that, and then I got my first programming experience working with the dance team, hockey, cheerleading, and Goldie. So a lot of the stuff I do now with gymnastics was like trial ran for the dance team. They're very similar athletes, and that was a great, like, the dance team at Minnesota. They're a bunch of badasses, and they just won a double natty championship this year. Shout out to them. No free shout outs. But yeah, like that was like a great first experience of like that was like my first full team that I got to do any I got to work with sport coaches, I worked with trainers, and I got to develop a full program for the year and see it through. Um and then COVID hit. And this was something because I was a paid intern, and I didn't know if I was going to get to keep my job. I was really fortunate that they honored me for another year and said, if you're they didn't hire, they stopped hiring paid interns, but they said like they were going to honor me for that year. Um, because like they're not going to kick me out to the wild. But the crazy part was like, even though I was still under another year as a paid intern, like I didn't have any coaching to do. Like I tried, like I sat at home and I tried to give them like at home stuff to do, but like they weren't like as much of a team sport as maybe like a soccer or some of our other teams were. So they weren't really training much. And because teams weren't competing, like what are they practicing for? They couldn't even go to nationals that year. So that was another kind of low point where like I heavily debated whether I wanted to coach again. Um, I worked random jobs. I was door dashing. I did Amazon. I worked in a warehouse for a couple months, just to try to make some more money. I think one thing that was really helpful was like getting to help Corey Peterson with soccer again, because once we were able to, we built a weight room outside. So we moved racks outside, dumbbells outside. We had a full
I
functioning weight room.
remember you saying that.
And that got my coaching spark back, because like once we could train outside, I was like, now I feel like a coach again. So that was awesome. And like we tried our best. Like we were Zoom calling coaches on like throughout the day. I played a lot of Warzone, drank a few Bud Lights more than I probably should have, but Like that was the only time in my career where like throughout this whole story where I actually debated whether I wanted to be a coach, like if this was for me. I remember I even applied for a job as like a heating and cooling person because they make bank. I had no qualifications. I'm like, shit, I'll learn. I'll learn anything if I didn't know what the future was gonna hold. So eventually we get let back into the school and I'm able to help out a lot of teams. I'm able to do most of my old job responsibilities again. And then not shortly after I get a call that and said that like our one of the people on our staff was leaving and they said, hey, like I'm gonna like Wiley said, I'm gonna help co-coach with you, but if you want, like you can get some experience in writing their program. You're essentially going to be working with them, but you're still going to be a paid intern. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a great opportunity. And like at that, my first thought too was like, there we go. There's the door open. Now I just have to go earn it. So me being a paid intern, and this was still during COVID, we had a weight room built in our field house. So it was like a wide open space. We put platforms in like 10 old racks. So we had nothing but barbells, dumbbells, and racks. That's all we had. And I was essentially the assistant strength coach for track and field for that semester as a paid intern while they were opening up the job. I just had to be patient. So essentially what I looked like, that was my interview, like how I looked at it, because I was able to take over the team. And although I had help from Wiley, she was helping me coach. I told her like, I'm going to run this, like I'm going to run this crap. So she got to see how I coach. She got to see how I run a program. I was meeting with coaches and like learning through like their injury reports, things like that. And then also go like just being told like when they're going to open the position, things like that. So, and then I ended up securing that position. So that's where I've been since, working with track and field and women's gymnastics. It's been life changing throughout this entire journey. Like this felt like in the moment the most right thing. And I remember like after I got the call from Wiley when she offered me the job, I hung up the phone and like I went into the bathroom and like I just got hit with the emotion, man. It made me think back to everything that like I went through, like the good, like so much of the bad. There was a lot of good, but it made me think back to like everything, all the decisions I made that could have been hard. Like it was all worth it, and I was getting rewarded for that, and like being told that you deserve this was something that like was life, like that was life changing for me. So like Minnesota is home. I told him it's a place that I could see myself starting a family, and now I'm an engaged man living in Minnesota that is looking to hopefully start a family here in the next few years. So yeah, here I am.
Let's go.
Man.
That's a great story.
That's awesome. I had no idea.
Yeah,
Dude,
man.
You're like, it's like a crazy unique story because it's super rare that somebody interns, like second big time internship, right? Like Whitewater's a good internship, but like going to Wisconsin, Minnesota, you know what I'm saying? Like big time D1. You go, and then all of a sudden a paid internship opens up. And then you're there, and then a job opens up. Like that's so rare to just be able to just like continue on and all those like, because shit, I was there for a year
Never happened.
and nothing opened. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I was kind of like hoping something like that would happen to me, but no. But
and throughout COVID too, like I just can't feel more lucky for how things have.
oh, for real, that they kept you, bro. Like nothing against like you,
No.
but like you're a paid intern, dude. You know, like, and they were making budget cuts. They made a ton of budget cuts.
Oh, and I forgot to say in my story too, like 2 or 3 weeks before that last situation happened where the coach left, I was actually I did get an interview with a Division I school to be a strength coach, and I was pretty much like the runner up. And I'm sure you guys have felt this. Like Hayden, I've heard about your interviews. Servando, I literally interviewed you. That's weird.
Yeah.
As
Right.
You didn't hire him, bro? That's awkward.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I'm over it. I'm
wasn't
over
my
it.
decision at the end. But being like
Whatever.
learn it, like I didn't get the position and being told like you did nothing wrong, they just didn't pick you, like that was real shit.
That shit sucks, huh?
That is
That is
how
awful.
that is how
awful.
it works. Like he's like, you interviewed great, you answered all the questions, but like it came down to the sport coaches just wanted the other person, and like
Can you tell us what school? Are you allowed to tell us? You tell
yeah,
us.
Utah State,
What was the sport?
women's basketball and helping with football, and I think it was softball too.
What coach didn't like you?
The women's basketball coach.
Yeah. It's basketball coaches, man. They're
Yeah,
very
she
specific.
didn't like
bro.
she didn't like my energy.
Rough.
Apparently my energy wasn't the vibe for women's basketball, but I guess if you know me, like I can bring the energy on the floor. Like I'm very much a product of my environment. Like I'm not too high, but I'm not too low, and I think that's like it thrives in a lot of those situations. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. Again, like that's something like that sucks, but like that would have been life changing in itself. The crazy part about it was like I thought I felt so good about that interview. I was looking for houses in Utah, and then when like it didn't happen, I was like, all right, I'm gonna be in Minnesota for a while. I ended up meeting my now fiance, and we literally went to the same. We went to Utah like 2 months into our relationship. We flew there together and like explored the mountains, and it was like by like chance that one of her best friends lives out there, and I was like, it's so crazy, full circle that I'm out here hanging out in the mountains, like in the place where I thought this was gonna be my life, and I'm out here 2 months later and it's a completely different situation. So
Wild, bro.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I
So
think can I just add to Adam? I think a huge part of the job that you have now has got to definitely be from the relationships that you had with everyone, because
Mm-hmm.
immediately like reflecting on when I walked in on my first day, you were such like an awesome, super nice, trustworthy individual right away. Like I felt comfortable coming to you with like the stupid questions that I would never ask the full timers. And it was probably a week in. And you just had such good relationships with everyone. And that speaks to how important that is for any job, but especially our career.
No,
It's-
bro. I think we can all say that. Like, I don't think we find as much success as we do without you helping us out. You're crazy helpful in our whole time there, bro.
I still remember your first intern
PowerPoint,
meeting with the
Yeah, bro.
the PowerPoint. Yeah.
now
how to be an intern.
How to be an intern.
Deep into that presentation. I've given it to like 15 different classes, three a year, and given it at college. Like my Whitewater still shows my video. I recorded it for them for their kids. But no, I really appreciate that. But it's funny you say that because like my biggest goal, like being in the position I was, like again, I got hired. I was a paid intern at like 22 to 23, and then I was full time by 24. So like my big thing was like coming into an internship where like your ears are up and like you don't want to step on any toes with the coach. Like I wanted to be the intermediate. I wanted to be the guy where like, hey, this is really how it is. Here's how you talk to this person. Like this person's not as scary at first, but like they'll trust you. Like I want like because like that was stuff like I learned. I didn't have anyone to tell me that, but like if I could help you guys understand that quicker and feel more comfortable. And plus, like you guys were all like super cool, so we hung out anyways. Like I never looked at it as like I was your because I wasn't your internship supervisor, but like we were all in it together. Like I could learn so much from you guys, and like you guys still had your like again, you were the interns, so you had your dues to pay, but like in the same sense, I never felt better than you guys because like I still had so much to learn myself, and I had a job to do. So
I remember you
So-
saying that from the start too.
Yeah.
That same thing.
It's okay. You totally thought you were better than us. We get it.
was fun. I was the big man on campus, and then when you were there for a year, you were the big man on campus, so you know how it feels.
Yeah, but I wasn't like you, bro. I was like Ruff. When we got there and Ruff was there, dude, everybody thought like, oh shit, Ruff's the guy, bro. He knows what's going on.
Ruff's the guy.
Ruff's the
would say
guy,
I just
bro.
I
He's the
fronted
guy.
that whole time. I was like, sup?
Sup? Up,
What
Ruff.
So over here's the bathroom.
Rough. Okay, serious question. Out of like our PPM, was there any time where one of us asked you a question or like said something and you were just like, that was a really dumb question, or like anything like any
Well-
instance one of us like went to you or like, hey, Ruff, what's this? Or
The dumbest thing by far was day one. Which one of you showed up with Guy? Vondo, right?
probably me.
Yeah. So you both walk in. I think Adam was like, here's the way room. I don't know who brought you down. But the first thing that came out of Guy's mouth was, It's like a kid in a candy shop. And I looked at him and I was like, you're gonna struggle here. I literally had that thought go in my head. I was like, that was so dumb, dude. Don't say that stuff. Like,
This is what D1 looks like.
Adam, so you've been there 5 years, right?
I think it's hard 4.5. Yeah.
Okay, so about 5. What's the next 5 years?
Yeah,
What's
man.
the goals? What's the
So,
plans? 5-10 years?
well, I'm really fortunate to work with two really competitive teams. Like we're still competing for Big Ten championships. So like in the short term, like I'm gonna do my best to help these athletes succeed, and we're having a great time right now doing it. I've built a lot of really good relationships. Um, I mean, essentially, there's only one way when you're at the organization. There's only one way up, and there's as an assistant, the next step up would be associate. So, that would require me to probably work in a weight room, like my own weight room. So that's either Cal or it's basketball. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not, I could see myself working, basketball in the future, but like I'm not in any rush to leave. I think, Minnesota has such a great culture, like their working culture, as far as like everyone really does want to be successful and do the right things. I have honestly one of the best bosses in the country, hands down. And even if you're not at the university, you can probably attest to that. Um, I get the freedom to create and to program how I see fit. I have coaches who have continued to trust me more and give me more of a role in helping build their culture, which has been huge. So there's no short-term plan to see anywhere else. I'm extremely happy with where I'm at. However, if I do want to stay at Minnesota, that would be the direction. You know what I'm saying? And I would be very happy to be in that role if that time came.
Would you leave Minnesota?
I don't think in the next 5 years I could see myself leaving, because we have a lot of our family and friends close by, and if we're gonna start a family, it would be tough. But we can't really speak for the conversations with my fiance like 10 years from now. If our jobs weren't fulfilling us the way they are now, because she really loves her job too, I mean, we would be open, and like we've talked about that in the past, but not any time anywhere soon. So if any of my athletes are listening to this, you won't have to worry. I don't have any plan on leaving in the next 2-3 years, but 10 years from now could be a whole different story. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really fulfilled right now about what I do, and I think there's so much room to be better, and that's what pushes me. But 10 years from now, I don't know what the field's going to look like. I don't know what my coaches might not be there anymore. Like, that can change everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, Coach Wiley couldn't be there anymore in 10 years. That could be a huge deciding factor on how happy you are in your job. Your boss and your coaches you work for, like, that is a huge source of your stress or your happiness. So making sure when like you're picking your spot, or where, like, if you want to settle down somewhere long term, I think those are really important.
W or M?
And baby, all the way. My grandma still posts like, oh, like, you still got to be a Badger fan, right? She's always like posting on my wall. I'm like, Grandma, I am a Gopher through and through. Sky the Ma, row the boat, go Gophers. Like, they've been so good to me, and like I can't even I don't care about the Badgers anymore. Like, it was a dream. No, I'm serious. Like, it was a dream working for them, but like now I'm just over it. It's not like I love kicking Badger ass and I love kicking Nebraska ass. Sorry, Hayden. We love kicking Iowa.
Why did you have to bring Nebraska in? That's kind of
I'm just saying, like,
that's so wild.
You're
We're not even rivals, bro.
One of my
We're not
best
even
friends.
rivals.
We're not rivals. We're not rivals. But I'm saying you're one of my best friends until we play. You know what I'm saying? So
that's crazy. I don't know why I just got thrown in the fire like that. It's wild. To be fair, since I've been here, I am 1-0. I'm just gonna throw that out there. 1-0.
I would say, like, I was thinking about this too, because like I had some notes down that you asked, but there was one big thing like I had to say that would credit my entire journey, is that no matter what step I was at, whenever I'm thinking ahead of my next step, whether it's in 6 months or it's 6 years, if there's something that I am gunning for, some kind of bigger plan, I'm planning my steps to put me in to be in the best position for that as proactively as possible. So when I was an intern, I knew to be a paid intern, I had to learn the technology. I had to work around the teams. Like, That's literally all the job requirements. If I wanted to put myself in a good position to work a track job, like I had to know Olympic weightlifting. I USA certified, and I have the track and field strength and conditioning certification. Literally the same program that the track coaches wanted to use for their weight room program. So like I could speak the same language. So like knowing those things ahead of time, like whether it, like I said, it could be, you don't know when that door is going to open, but if that's something you're going for, I always put myself in that best position by, checking the boxes, like knowing what they're going to look for in the future. And most of the time, like whether that position's open or not, like coaches or administration is willing to tell you what they look for. That way, you know what you're doing. You're not just guessing, and you don't want to waste time. There's always so much to learn, but you don't want to like go after a certification or something if it's not going to help you in the future, in my opinion. But
Facts. 100%
that,
agree.
I mean, there's a lot of great certifications out there, but that's just my 2 cents of like, no matter what step I was in my career, I always made sure that there was first an ultimate goal, and then I had steps to get there, so that whether it happened or not, at least I tried and I had the steps checked off. And fortunate enough, my last 5 or 6 years, everything that I wrote down and written, I've been able to accomplish. So it's not always like that. I'm just really fortunate and blessed. And I couldn't have done it without, like Justin said, like I've had really good connections that have helped me out along the way. If I didn't work hard for the people at Whitewater, I might not have gotten into Minnesota.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? If I didn't show good repertoire with the soccer coaches, like they could speak for me and my coaching abilities for when I wanted to be a paid intern. When I'm helping out the director at Minnesota with her teams, she knows how I coach.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things.
I'd like to stem off of that just because I've had it written down on my sticky note for the last 30 minutes. But just for like kind of a takeaway from like what I'm getting out of your story and what our listeners can take from this as well is like you hear that saying, like you got to be lucky to, it's a lot of luck to like get these promotions and like get far in a career and a profession. But really to me, it's like when you're working with really good people and you find good people you work with, and then you do your part and pay your dues and work really hard to like get to where you want to be, like ultimately they're going to fight for you. So like,
Yeah, they
to
will.
me, I don't think it's all about just pure luck. I think it's a mixture of you work for people that are genuinely good people and that will fight for you if you return the favor and work really hard.
Yeah,
So,
it's absolutely true.
For sure. All right. Well, Adam, appreciate you telling your story. It's definitely
Yeah.
cool to hear all the stuff we didn't know. Like you said, we all know each other really well, but we're still learning so much about each other. It's pretty cool to hear everybody's story and how everybody's story is so different. So, Bondo, you already went.
everyone,
Coach Ruff, next.
Sure.
All right.
There it is.
Or should we? Yeah, Coach Ruff. I was gonna say we should just throw JD into the fire. Don't tell him.
do we have a duck fact for today?
Duck fact?
No, and I
We
was
don't.
really looking forward to the duck fact.
Yeah.
It was late
see-
at night at the Super Bowl. That's my fact. Just kidding. It was a good game.
Who won? Or who not who won the Super Bowl, but like who
Who
picked
won,
who?
who won our challenge? I didn't. I picked the Eagles.
You did? Bono, who'd you pick?
Eagles.
I said the Chiefs.
What was the score? We were close, right? We were closest on the leader, like the
Yeah,
pick.
it was between you two. So
I
Yeah.
picked 31-28.
Let's go.
Picked the over. You picked over that.
What did I pick?
I don't even remember. We'll have to look. We'll have to go back. But all right. We appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode of Hanging with the Herd and being a part of our series of Journey to a Strength and Conditioning Professional. We hope you are enjoying as much as we are. Make sure you hit that like, make sure you hit that subscribe, make sure you share. If you're in the strength and conditioning world, share with a friend who's in the strength and conditioning world. We all go through different things. We have different trips. We have different experiences. So, share with somebody so they can get a different vibe, get a different, story, and maybe it'll help them relate or give them a little more motivation and drive to their journey to a strength and conditioning professional. Again, thank you, and we'll catch you next week.